Hey, Matthew here. In this video we're going to talk quickly about the O-snap. The O-snap is a pretty important part of RHINO and it should always be on. The first thing you should do when you start the software is to turn on the O-snap. The O-snap is located at the bottom of the screen, approximately in the very middle. It's right next to something called Smart Track, and if you were counting from the very left hand side you should see the word C-plane, then X with some number, Y with some number, Z with some number, some sort of units, your current layer, then the words grid snap, ortho, planar, and O-snap. If O-snap is off, it'll look like this. If O-snap is on, it'll look like this. Now I'm going to go through the first few options of the O-snap, which are the most commonly used ones, and then I'll leave the other ones for you to look at into yourself, which is they're far more rare to use. So to help me explore this idea, I'm going to make a box at a random location, so I don't know where that first point is. Because I clicked with the camera, I have no way of knowing exactly where that is without knowing some more RHINO commands. So if I make another box, and I'm going to make this one some particular size, I know this one's at 0, 0, 0 at this corner because I asked it to be. But the issue here is that I am using only the move command and some set distance and not capable of moving it in line with this object in any way. So that's where the O-snaps come in. So if I wanted to, for example, move this corner here to snap to this corner here, then all I need to do is make sure that this end snap is on, the very first one, and it'll allow me to hover near the corner of an object and it'll say end. So end comes up because it's saying that, okay, I'm using the object snap and the mouse is currently snapped to the end of that object. So if I click with that on, I've got the end of that object selected and I can now place it at the end of another object. So that's the end one. I can choose different ends. Every corner of this box is an end. And we'll get into what ends are in a little bit more detail in the geometry section. But I can move this corner to this corner, for example, and I know that that corner there hits that corner there. The next snap is the near snap, which means I can snap, say, for example, the end of this object near anywhere on this edge. So I know that this is on the edge. I don't know whereabouts on the edge it is necessarily because it's still a little point and guess, but I know it touches that edge at some point. So that's very useful if you need to make sure something is touching something but you don't really care where it is, which become very complicated geometric problems. Now the next one we'll skip for now. We'll get back to that in a bit because we need to introduce you to a new type of geometry for that. The next one we'll look at is mid. So I'm going to put mid on, and mid, as you would expect, allows me to snap the end here to the middle of this edge. So the edge is this black line here, and all of the black lines are edges, and I can snap to any middle point of any of them. Voila. So that is the middle point of this black edge here. So if I moved this box away, snap it here to the corner, it was halfway along this edge. Now for the next two, we'll need new pieces of geometry as well. So this one says center, so I'll show you the center one. So only particular objects have centers. I don't want to get into that right in this video, but I'm going to type in the word circle because as I learned in school, and I assume you did too, circles have centers. So if I click that on, I can move the end of this box, for example, and if I hold over that circle, bang, I can snap to the center. So that again, I can click an endpoint, and if I go near the circle, it can snap to the center, and it will say CEN because the mouse is currently locked on to the center of that object. The next one is int, and it stands for intersect, and it will allow me to snap to any intersect. So say, for example, I want to snap to this object here, like to this moment here where the circle and the box intersect each other. So I've got another box, and it's 1 unit by 1 unit by 1 unit, and I want this top corner to be placed on this intersection here, If I have intersection ticked, I can click on this, move that corner, and I just need to hold it there, and INT will come up, and I've just snapped to the intersection. The last one we haven't looked at yet in this section is point, and that's for snapping to point objects. So if I type in the word point in the command line and click, I will have made a point object. The reason for this is because points don't really have ends, because they're just a location in space. There's nothing really near them because they don't have a length of a line, so it's like there's no distance, there's nothing to be near. You're either on it or you're not. It doesn't have a middle because it's just a point. It doesn't have a center again because it's just a point, and it doesn't have an intersection because again it's just a point. So we've made this point object, and the point snap is effectively just for this reason. So if I take my box here, I can move one of its corners and snap it to that point using point. So perp, tan, quad, knot, and vertex are far more rarely used. Vertex is something that's used for meshes. So if we get into meshes a bit later, we get into meshes in the next part. Knot is a fairly complex idea. I'll talk about it in the geometry section, but you rarely ever use that. Quad, tan is the tangent, quad is a quadrant of an object, and perp is the object snap. So the only useful one of those really that you'll be using in any reasonable way is quad. So this is a circle, and I could say make a point, and I could move it around until I get to the, let me turn quad off so I can see where I'm trying to find. There we go, there's the end is there. I can also find another point, which I'm assuming is on the other side, which is the midpoint, and then doing that again with quad on, allows me to snap to the quadrant points. They're not the exact quadrant point if you were kind of considering splitting the circle into an even 4 parts, but they are parametrically, which we'll get to in far more detail in the geometry section. But that's the O snaps. That should always be on. You barely use the quadrant one, but it might come up. The important ones are end, the ability to snap to the end of objects; near, the ability to snap near objects; point, the ability to snap to point objects; mid, the middle of objects; cen, the center of objects; and int, the intersection of objects. I'll see you in the next video.